So, a question for you, chat. Are y'all ready to admit that your boy, me, has kind of been right about Doctor Doom, while a lot of other folks have been misled? And I'm talking about a couple of things in specificity here. There's one for your Scrabble games. This is coming from Alex Perez. Victor Von Doom belongs to 828. Wow. Pretty crazy. Pretty wild. Pretty crazy. Pretty wild here. Okay, now this is important for a couple of different reasons. Number one, a lot of folks did not think this would happen. Now, it's hard to explain why, but essentially a lot of the rumors about Doctor Doom have to do with the multiverse. They have to do with the multiverse. They have to do with He Who Remains, incursions, that sort of stuff. Okay? So a lot of folks did not think that it would be just as simple as Doctor Doom is from this universe with Reed Richards. Okay? And there were folks that were saying, as we were leading up to this film, that there was nothing in the movie to suggest that Victor Von Doom was from their universe. That's actually what Alex Perez said. And when he said that, I was like, I don't agree. I think there are things in the film that lead me to believe that Victor is from this universe. Now, all of a sudden, it's breaking out there. A lot of people are talking about, by the way, Alex Perez seemingly knows something else about Victor that he's not letting us know. I think he knows that my theory is correct, and he just doesn't want to say it yet, okay? But that's speculation. I haven't spoken to Alex. I don't know. My gut is telling me I was correct, and I think he just found out that I was correct. Anyway, point being, why is it so crazy that Victor Von Doom is from this particular universe? And how do we know that he's from this particular universe, besides the fact that Alex is now saying it? Well, in the film, there are two separate instances where a world council, like something like the United Nations, are meeting together to form up the Future Foundation. In the one part of the film, it is to put all of their arms down to like demilitarize, and they're like all about that. And then later on, it's to build all the shit to teleport the Earth away, right? Which made that one dude in chat really butthurt because it makes Reed a moron or whatever, right? So anyway, point is, that's kind of established in the film, that Latveria is there and it exists there. I would also say the post-credit scene is a super big clue. And we're going to do a whole section on the post-credit scene in a bit here because everybody's getting this thing wrong. And there's a lot of stuff that I need to point out that's going to blow your fucking mind when it comes to that. However, the reason it is so important that Doctor Doom is from this universe is that it eliminates a lot of other possibilities for his origin. Okay? So, number one, it eliminates that he comes from a dead universe. It eliminates that he comes from one of these other universes that we have met. It eliminates the possibility that he comes from a universe that we have never experienced before. It eliminates the possibility that he's a Tony Stark variant. Don't you see? And instead, what it says is that he is, for all intents and purposes, 100% comic book accurate Victor Von Doom. And one of the things that's kind of cool about this Fantastic Four movie is that we get a lot of scenes with the team and the villains. Moleman plays a pretty important role in this film. And two separate times in the film, it is shown to us that Sue is able to work with some of these villains. Moleman, he doesn't like Reed, but he's willing to work with Sue. The reason Moleman and Reed cannot get along is because they have a history. Okay? the fact that we see all of these different, like Giganto, and we see that there's the monkeys, right? There's the Mad Thinker, all of these different villains that Reed mentions when the police are going to shut them down after he baby-proofs the world. This is all to suggest that, as far as we understand it, the basic comic book version of the Fantastic Four is what happened here in this world. Meaning, way before Reed Richards got his powers, he was at university with Victor Von Doom. Okay? Now, I guess you could say, like, well, how does this tie into all of the multiversal stuff, all of the stuff that's going on, right? Well, even though this movie does not directly deal with the multiverse, there is two big elements of multiversal stuff that was dropped in the film. Number one, there's the part where Reed is speaking to the children. Okay, which, by the way, too, on a side note, when I watched the film for the second time, I realized this is a joke, another self-referential joke about Marvel fatigue. They're in a group of kids. He's on the chalkboard. He's talking about parallel dimensions and parallel Earths. Everybody starts to go to sleep, and he says, "Who wants to see a big explosion?" Is that not the perfect joke about how the audience is feeling about the multiversal stuff? I thought it was brilliant. You might think it's a reach, but I'm telling you right now, they made that, and they made the Phase 4 and 5 joke as well about the female casting. I'm telling you, that shit's in there. Anyway, point is this. That suggests that Reed has begun to understand the multiverse. He is understanding the multiverse. He is trying to figure out the multiverse. However, there's another thing that happens in the movie where Reed, not only does Galactus say, "I was once like you, a man from another world, when my universe was destroyed and I was born into this," but then when they're back home talking about the samples that Herbie had collected from Galactus' ship, Reed says he's billions of years old from a different reality, a different dimension. It would take 10 years to truly understand his nature. So Reed begins the movie thinking about the multiverse. He ends the movie defeating a being from a different reality. Oh, and by the way, Galactus's ship is just hanging out in front of Earth for Reed to study for that 10 years that he talks about. Okay? So I think this also suggests that Doom and Reed, because when we get into the post-credit scene thing, I'm going to make the argument that Doom is showing up to have a conversation. He's showing up to collaborate. He is not showing up to steal Franklin. And in fact, Sue knows Victor. And I'll talk more about that in a second, but I can see evidence that Sue Storm knows Victor. Of course she would. She's the international person in the comics. They know each other. They have a relationship. And just like Moleman, Sue Storm fucks with Victor. Victor fucks with her, but Victor does not fuck with Reed. Right? So you can see how it's kind of like set up and established. Either way, I believe what this means is you're going to get a lot more Reed Richards and Doctor Doom than we initially thought. Okay? And even Feige has recently spoken to, like, there was some comments he made about how you're going to have these other Marvel characters go into the Baxter building. Do you guys remember that? He just said this like last week. So the whole point is they're filming stuff within the Fantastic Four universe for Avengers Doomsday. Now, that probably seems obvious, although when we saw the post-credit scene for Thunderbolts, a lot of people were still under the impression that the Fantastic Four universe was going to be destroyed, and they were coming in to 616 because they had to. I don't think so, okay? And obviously the universe, as it stands right now, has not been destroyed. With Kevin saying that you're going to have characters from 616 in the Fantastic Four universe, and the fact that we know they built sets for Doomsday that are in the Fantastic Four universe, we saw these in set leaks, I believe you're going to get a lot more Reed and Doom in Doomsday than we first thought. And I also think this Secret Wars might end up being way more about Reed and Doom than even I first thought. Because I was like, oh, but they have all this other shit. They have all this shit to juggle. They're going to be juggling all this sort of stuff. I think, given the post-credit scene, given the fact that it's now confirmed that Victor Von Doom belongs to 828, I think this is suggesting that we're getting really traditional Victor Von Doom. And do you know what that means, chat? If that's true? Like, do you know what that means? And partially here, we're about to get into some other updates. One of those updates is that discussion is happening right now at Marvel Studios about keeping RDJ as Doctor Doom past Secret Wars. I told you that was going to happen as well, by the way. The reason I think it's going to happen is connected to the same reason that I think... Do you see where this is going? Do you see where this is going, chat? I think my theory is correct. I think Victor, like, why wasn't he there during the Fantastic Four movie? Because he was already out exploring the multiverse. What did he find when he explored the multiverse? He found a timeline known as the Sacred Timeline, protected by an organization called the TVA. And within this sacred timeline, he found a variant of himself. But that variant was called Tony Stark. That variant was called Iron Man. Hello? I mean, we're going to find out, right? But I'm just saying, it's kind of wild how everything that we keep hearing lines up with my theory. Like, chat, think about that. Have we had any piece of evidence that even slightly disproves my theory? Anybody? Like, can you think of one single leak, rumor, anything? I don't know. I don't know. What's the theory? Well, it's crazy. It's kind of simple to explain, but you'd have to understand like all the details. I suggest you go watch the videos I've made on it. I made a ton of videos on them. They all have like massive views. But essentially, the theory is that He Who Remains removed Victor Von Doom from the Sacred Timeline. And the way he did that was to make sure that as a young child, Victor Von Doom was adopted by the Starks and raised to believe he was Tony. Basically, the kid gets lost in childbirth. They scramble, adopt a young born baby, born around the same time, from either Latveria or, one of those kind of countries. And the kid is just raised as Tony Stark. Which, by the way, this is actually something that happens in the comics a little bit. There was a retcon that happened that does show that Tony was adopted. And yeah, there's It's pretty wild. It would be pretty wild. I believe what Alex said yesterday. He's like, I'm not going to give it away, but it's a choice, is what he said about what they're doing with Doom. So we'll see. I mean, maybe we'll get more info soon, but yeah, that's kind of interesting about Doom, huh?